Good morning. This video is going to walk you through some of the features of our new product called Pucker Potion. So you should have seen a picture of something like this. It showed up on the Euphoria sales rep area. It's also on the Euphoria fan page on Facebook. And we introduced that picture along with a little tutorial that you can share with your customers. It says, Pucker Potion, our latest creation, is the answer you've been waiting for in the battle against cellulite. The active ingredient Actigym works to increase fat metabolism in muscle fibers in a manner similar to that of endurance exercise. When combined with caffeinated lotion and skin penetration enhancers like black pepper and menthol, you may find yourself with thicker, smoother skin and a more toned and defined body silhouette. So the reason that I decided to put together this little tutorial video is because I wanted to describe to you how this particular lotion does this so that when your customers are asking you questions, I'm not expecting you to be a chemist or a dermatologist, but I want you to have a good understanding of how this particular product is accomplishing this. So I had uploaded a little while back a PDF that, or I'm sorry, not a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation that walks you through how the active ingredient in this works. So I wanted to take you through that a little bit right now. Let me find it here. Okay. So this is the PowerPoint that you're welcome to share with people, your customers, whoever's interested in it. A lot of the information in the beginning is talking more about why you might want to provide body products to people. So talking a lot about who's using them, what body parts are using them on, what countries use the most body products, and how body products are evolving. So evolving into things that are more sculpting products or things that actually are accomplishing something more than just hydrating your skin. So I want to get you down to more of the sciencey part of this. Okay, so talking about how a toned body is going to have less saggy skin. The benefits between endurance training and strength training. Both are of benefit if any of you are looking to do any exercise. Okay, so here's the first part that I want you to look at. Two different types of muscle fibers, type 1 and type 2. These are also called slow twitch and fast twitch. Fast twitch muscle fibers are formed when you're doing anaerobic exercise, so that is exercise that is without oxygen. That would be like strength training, lifting weights, or also people doing sprints and things like that where they're not getting quite enough oxygen in to sustain the activity. That would be what's developing these types of muscle fibers. The slow twitch muscle fibers are more created or sustained when you're doing aerobic exercise. So oxygen is getting in while you're doing the activity. There's less fatigue. The contractions are not as quick, but they're slow and prolonged contractions. And with the slow twitch or the type 1 muscle fibers or the endurance exercise, more what you're building here are muscles that are helping you to maintain your posture and your body structure. Okay, so this talks more about slow fibers use aerobic metabolism. The type 1 fibers have a higher content of mitochondria. Mitochondria are in your cells. These are your powerhouses. This is where energy is created. So the more mitochondria in your cells, the higher your metabolic rate would be. They use aerobic metabolism as a principal energy source. So in order for your mitochondria to produce this energy, they need oxygen. Oh, it says it right here. Needs oxygen, O2. Aerobic metabolism involves complete oxidation of glucose and Fa, its fatty acids, inside the mitochondria and generates a large amount of energy. ATP is energy. As compared to anaerobic metabolism, that would be your strength training or your sprinting, where you're not using oxygen. There's no use of the mitochondria because the mitochondria has to have oxygen coming into it in order for it to do this entire cycle. And although it does produce some energy, it's not an awful lot, but it does produce it at a faster rate. Okay, so greater amounts of energy, ATP, obtained through mitochondrial metabolism in type 1 fibers allow them to provide muscle tone. Okay. Now, adipocytes. Adipocytes are your fat cells. So let's look at what's happening here. Fatty acid uptake. Circulating triglycerides are hydrolyzed, and then fatty acids can be taken up by the adipocytes. So running around in your bloodstream are triglycerides. Triglycerides, if they're not going to be used for energy, are then plucked up and stored as fatty acids, or I'm sorry, are stored in the adipocytes. So when we are thinking about weight loss or fat loss, there are two components to it. One is we want to have less accumulation of these fatty cells, the adipocytes, and then we also want to have and that can be done with diet. And then we also want a reduction in the amount of fatty acids or the storage adipocytes with increased activity. So here it says adipocytes store fat when there is no extra need of the energy. So if you take in more food than what your body needs to use on a daily basis, you will have an increase in fatty tissue. I don't think that's necessarily a new concept for anyone. Okay, endurance exercise effects. So if you were going for a long walk, let's consider that endurance exercise training. In the adipocyte, the fatty acids will be, the adipocyte will be encouraged to break down back into fatty acids or triglycerides because your tissue cells are demanding energy, and their energy source, when there isn't something readily available that you've just eaten, is going to come from this stored fat. So the adipocytes, they put out some of these fatty acids into your bloodstream, and they are delivered to the muscles as a source of energy due to an increased energy demand. It also stimulates the release of what is called adiponectin. And as you can see here, adiponectin regulates energy metabolism in muscle cells. So both of these things are working together. Your exercise is what stimulated the release of the adiponectin, and the adiponectin is what's stimulating your muscle fibers to demand more energy. Endurance training induces adiponectin release, which regulates metabolism in muscle fibers. So everything there is working together. The effect of adiponectin on muscles. Adiponectin interacts with receptor ADPOR and activates AMP-activated protein kinase, a regulator of metabolism in muscle fibers. So I get that that sounds incredibly confusing, but pretty much what's happening here is adiponectin comes to the edge of your muscle fiber cell. Your muscle fibers cell, and it connects to this receptor, and this receptor then says that it needs more energy, and it pulls in energy, which then gets metabolized through the mitochondria and creates more muscle fibers, more of the endurance muscle fibers. So by having adiponectin released, we get an increase of glucose uptake because that's what the cell is pulling in from your bloodstream into here to help with the creation of energy. It boosts fatty acid oxidation, yes, because if there's not enough glucose in your bloodstream to begin with, your liver is going to break down these fatty acids to create glucose in your bloodstream. It protects mitochondrial function, increases the number of mitochondria. Okay, so if you're pulling in, if adiponectin is stimulating this cell and it's pulling in glucose, and this one little mitochondria cannot work fast enough to create the energy that your body is demanding, it will create more. And that's exactly what we want. Okay. Adiponectin increases mitochondrial content and activity, leading to a higher number of tonic muscle type 1 fibers. This part here talks a little bit about where the Actigem, which is plankton extract, is coming from. Secret personal trainer. Okay, so what they are saying is that the Actigem stimulates the adiponectin release. So your endurance training will stimulate adiponectin release, which we know then goes to your muscle fiber cells and tells them that we need more energy and they need to work harder. The addition of this Actigem ingredient does the same thing. So it also will stimulate the release of the adiponectin from your fatty tissues, which will then tell your muscle fiber cells that we need more energy. Mitochondrial activity in muscle fibers. Okay, so they're just showing some of the research that they did with this particular ingredient. So you can see here how much more, in a normal person, this is how much of the adiponectin was being released. This is how much more was being released when they added in the Actigem ingredient. Mitochondrial activity in muscle fibers, this was your normal, lots more activity in the muscle fibers. And then obviously quite a bit more ATP production in muscle cells. This is just trying to show you kind of what the muscle fiber looks like and how improved the activity is as compared to the control. I know that's kind of hard to see, but I think it's pretty obvious that it's lit up a little bit more. Okay, and then this is talking more about the results they had in some of their subjects. So the significant difference between those who used the product with the Actigem in it and those that didn't is remarkable. I don't think that it's necessarily going to take someone, that is morbidly obese and drop them down in 56 days into a body mass index that is a healthier one, but it can help a little bit. And certainly what they found was that for people who were not only putting on the product that had the Actigem in it, but were also doing exercise, they saw the biggest benefit, because not only did they have the product that was helping to stimulate that adiponectin release, but they also had exercise that was stimulating it as well. Okay, so now we're looking at, okay, so this one does show you kind of what the changes were for those who did just exercise, those that did the Actigem and no exercise, and then those that did the exercise and the Actigem. So obviously, greater benefit for using the Actigem and doing exercise. You can see though, it's not like 1.2 inches or even 6.2 inches. It's 1.2 centimeters. So it's not going to be what makes or breaks someone fitting into a smaller pair of jeans. Okay, and here are the pictures of some before and afters. So obviously the longer period of time that they use the product, the better benefits they see. I don't really see an awful lot of difference. Well, maybe a little bit here. And then these pictures are really hard to look at because they keep looking super blurry to me. But you can see, especially for skin sagginess in areas like on your arms, that could be a great place for people to be using it, just because that skin that hangs underneath your arms is so difficult to tone. Okay, so that is the piece of it that talks about the Actigem. The other piece of the cellulite, the pucker potion, is the caffeine side